Oh, yeah, it's beer, it's ball, it's drinking, it's doing everything we want to do here with beer and ball. It's Aaron Nagler, it's Billy Schmid, it's Cheesehead TV, it's 97.3 The Game. Bill, how the hell are you, man? Week 2, it's Beer and Ball 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Hey, and the best part is, Nags, I'm actually not going to be a suspect this week, and I actually
there
do
you go. Look at you drinking beer.
Yeah, it was pointed out to me that I had Gatorade last time. That's just not what we're going to be about on this podcast.
But you see, you did, not imbibe last time, which I understand. It was in the middle of the afternoon, and I understand you have to do stuff and you have to live a life, and that's why I was like, hey, let's record at night next time.
I appreciate it. No doubt.
We can throw down. We can have a little bit of beer and ball.
And I'll say this, as much as I don't know necessarily that individuals would notice, but when you're hanging around, 15, 16-year-old kids coaching some high school ball right after having like 4 or 5 quick ones, and I'm not saying 4 or 5 would have to get pounded during this, but when you're talking about ball, it's hard not to have at least 2 or 3.
Right. At least a few. Well, no, I love that you coach ball, dude, and you coach offensive line, right? That's what you played, and that's what you're coaching. That's so cool. It's so cool,
dude, and it's so cool because I'm able to do it with people that I played with and then was coached by. My offensive line coach is the main offensive line coach. My buddy Kyle, who was our quarterback when I was at Carroll, as I got the Pioneers on right now.
Yeah, there you go.
Shout out. He asked me, and I was like, dude, absolutely. You're telling me that I get to be on the sidelines again? 1,000%.
I know, just being around it, right? That's so
Crazy.
Funny you mentioned that because I mentioned on Twitter today, Coco made it as the long snapper. We'll see if he survives, past, whatever they do on the waiver wire, etc. But I would stay behind at practice every day while I was in Green Bay, and he would be there. And this is when there was 2 long snappers still on the roster. Every single day, he was out there working on his snaps. Like the assistant special teams guy was there, and he was like, "All right, I think we've got it." And Coco would be like, "No, it's just one more. And I had somebody say, you stuck around while everyone left and watched a long snapper. And I'm like, okay, 2 levels here, 2 levels, right? One, when you've watched a long snapper cost you a playoff game, it scars you as a man.
Yeah,
right?
It does.
It affects you for the 100%. Rest of your life. But then on another level, it's like you want to be around it. I love ball, man. I love being around football. And obviously I'm not coaching out here in New York, but just being on the sideline, NFL practice, NFL players, NFL coaches, personnel people, dude, you got to drag me away. I don't care. I don't care what they're doing. I'm just there,
no doubt,
in the mix. I love it so much.
Matt said it during one of his press conferences where it's like being out on the grass is just different. And it does, man. It's just different. And once they put the pads on and everybody around has cranked up the intensity, there's just nothing like that. And whenever it's a stupid gig that we get to do when we go up there for training camp practices. It is hard to pull me away from anything. So if you're counting the rotations on Jake Coco's 7.5-yard snap, I'm a big fan of that, Nags, because
I'm just saying.
We've all had that reoccurring nightmare of Steven Wirtel just getting pushed like a grocery cart. So, I mean, as much as we got to watch 56 snap balls, I'm down with it.
I'm not saying, I'm just saying. That's what I am talking
ready for
about. It's Beer and Ball 2, Electric Boogaloo. We're going to talk about this 53-man roster, the initial 53-man roster, if you
Good
will.
Point. Yep, nice
we all know some stuff will change in the interim, probably before week 1, let alone probably the next, 48 hours, 24 hours. However, we'll talk about this 53-man roster. I don't think there are any major surprises. We'll get to the 1 or 2 that there may have been along the way, but I'm just going to go down the list here. We'll start with the quarterbacks because they're the prima donnas, and if we don't start with the quarterbacks, they'll get upset.
For sure.
Not that anyone in the quarterback room has a chip on their shoulder at all times, but I will say it's very apparent that someone reads and listens to everything. So, of course, the Packers, much like most of the NFL at this point, not every team, but most teams, keeping 2 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. Danny Etling is the guy, the odd man out, so to speak. I suspect he'll be back on the practice squad. I'll tell you what, the Etling's better than love crowd in shambles. I mean, just Facebook is burning down. I'm RIP. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers.
I do like that you throw that.
Crowd.
I like that you throw that on the Facebook crowd because it definitely does
It
feel.
is though. It is
feels
100%
more like
the
the
Facebook crowd.
Yeah, it's not the Twitter.
Come
it's
on.
not. No one's making a TikTok of Danny Etling's run and telling me that he needs to be on there. We're lucky that's not on my face yet.
Well, you know.
Hey,
I'll tell you what, Bill. You're definitely in my top 8. That's all I'll say
I
about
appreciate it. And this song, the intro song to Beer and Ball, is actually one of the songs that just plays on my profile as I roll through. Edling had a more impressive run when he was with the Patriots, if I'm not mistaken, right? He had like an 80-something yard touchdown run.
Yep.
So if anybody is blown away by the 51-yard run and says, we need to get this guy on our active roster, then, dude, congratulations to Danny Etling. Right? Like, that's the one way you look at it. Sweet, man. Congratulations. Well, otherwise,
okay. And the thing is, though, right, and he will undoubtedly be the third guy. They'll bring him back, I suspect, on the practice squad. Who knows? Maybe some QB starved team. We are recording this prior to the waiver wire being kind of activated, so to speak. Maybe somebody grabs him. I doubt it. But the thing is, it's funny you mention that because it is like how you're watching the game, right? And I make fun and I like tease and whatever, but I understand it. You watch guys in preseason, and Danny Etling's going against fourth stringers who are never going to make an NFL roster, and he's running for 50-plus yards for a touchdown, doing a Lambeau leap. You get excited as a fan. Superstar. I understand that. I get it. And I'm not like, I don't want to dismiss that because you are football starved when the preseason rolls around and you think, oh, my God, look at this guy. He's making plays. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here to let everyone know, you look at Jordan Love and the progress he's made from his rookie year to now, you just see a guy who continues to get better every time he's on the field. Danny Etling, to your point, is the same guy he's been since he came into the league. And again, it's not a knock on him.
Oh.
He is who he is.
Yeah. And
Jordan Love has a monstrous ceiling that he has yet to hit.
And it's a lot like, I think I used this comparison maybe last week with Mac Jones and the quarterbacks from last year's draft. He was the most pro-ready. Right. Danny Etling went to LSU, right? Like, so Danny Etling and Purdue.
Big program, big-time program.
He was maybe more polished, more ready to play the position when he was 18 years old. Well, guess what? Right. Jordan Love now at 24 years old, 25 years old, that potential has already reached over and has still not hit the ceiling of it. I think
not even close.
Negs, that was my favorite part of the preseason, was seeing that the potential is starting to get mined, but you haven't even hit the biggest block of gold yet.
Well, here's the problem for the Packers, right? And I guess it's a nice problem to have, but
good one to have.
The sense that he has to play. He's at that point in his career. Andrew Brand has talked about this a lot. Like, at some point, your first rounder, it's got to play. And Aaron reached that point after his third year, and luckily for the Packers, Ted made that call and shipped Brett out. Now, obviously, they were in a little bit different circumstances, but man, Jordan's reached that point where next year, it's time. He's got to play, and he's not going to. Whatever he's got to do to develop as a quarterback is not going to happen in a training camp. It's not going to happen in a preseason game. Like, he's done all that, and he's improved every year, but he's at a point now in his career where he's got to play. And I don't know. Who knows? It all comes down to what Aaron wants to do.
For sure.
Next summer, next offseason, what have you. But to Jordan, it's like, okay, he's done everything asked of him. He's improved every year. He's developed clearly. But now he's at a point where he's got to play. He's got to play.
I don't think many people would be upset or would question that if it's, hey, man, I need to go to play for the Giants because I need to go and take over for Daniel Jones, right? Like, I need to go and get my chance to go play somewhere. And if he's on the Packers roster in 2023, he's the starting quarterback. Like, I think that's the only way that he's on the roster.
I very much agree. Very much agree.
And let's be honest, I mean, there are some teams, Nags, that do not know what a good NFL quarterback actually looks like before they've won a Super Bowl. They're like, you know what? I think that Pat Mahomes guy might do something nowadays.
He might be okay.
He might be okay. Right. Yeah. Right. But guess what? You can't retroactively go back and make the selection the Bears did. And did I say that out loud? Yeah,
wow. Hey, Bear Shade. You know they still suck. They still suck. But it's true. I mean, the idea that, I mean, I had someone ask me on my chat today, are they going to, like, what's going to happen with Love's 5th-year option? It's the Packers, you can't exercise that if Aaron's back. If Aaron's back, and that's that's why I talk about the year-to-year thing with Aaron. If he wants back in 2023, that's the end of Jordan Love. It's it. You can't.
Yeah, it is. And Andrew Brandt has been on it for a while where he said, no, this 3-year, $151 million deal is actually a 1-year, $42 million extension. And then we'll see next year.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is so many people attacked him for that, and so many people got after him for that. And he's been proven right in the sense that both Aaron Rodgers himself and Mark Murphy, the guy essentially responsible for signing the checks, have both said, like, verbatim, it's a year-to-year deal. Like, it's a year-to-year thing because now Aaron Rodgers is, going to be controlling the idea of, okay, I want to keep playing or no, I'm done. And I get the contract is what it is, and if he does retire, he's walking away from a ton of money. I think the obvious endpoint here is if they win a Super Bowl, Aaron's gone. I would suspect he's probably going to retire.
Yep.
But, Aaron's definitely in control because of the contract.
And I tend to believe that this is going to be the final season regardless. Like, unless some people have thrown it at me, they go to the Super Bowl and lose in dramatic fashion. Does that inspire him to come back again? Actually, no. Right. I think it's another reason for him to say, dude, I'm just never going to get another one of these damn things. So I'm just going to go and enjoy Jeopardy. I'm going to go enjoy Peru. I'm going to go live my life that doesn't involve potentially getting concussed.
I don't know, man. Walking away from like $50 million guaranteed. That's a trigger to pull right there.
It takes a different kind of cat, doesn't it?
And he is a different kind of cat.
Yep, no doubt about it.
As Mark said, quoting Ted, he's a complicated fella. No doubt about it. All right, let's go down. Well, somebody should. I think you can find it at the T-Head TV shop.
Atta baby.
All right, so let's go. Thanks for the tea. Let's go to the running back position. Packers keeping Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, releasing Patrick Taylor, Tyler Goodson, and Dexter Williams. Obviously, Kylan Hill still on the PUP for the first 4 weeks of the season. Not surprised by this. It was funny. I was talking to Andy Herman about this on Let's Talk Football earlier this week, and it is kind of funny. Andy, and I think we were all kind of as observers thinking, oh, I'm really original. I'm going to predict that they only keep 2 running backs and they can bring guys up from the practice squad. And like literally almost everybody on the beat predicted this. And this is exactly what happened. And I think it makes the most sense. There's nobody, I mean, I think Goodson obviously made a case as far as a ball carrier, as a playmaker.
Yeah.
But it's also about what you do on teams. And it's also about what you do when you don't have the ball, i.e., pass pro, and I just don't think he was up to snuff in that regard.
He clearly wasn't up to snuff on the pass pro. I think we all saw that pretty clearly when Leo Chanel just went straight into his chest. And I mean, it was.
I love that you know this. Like,
yeah, no doubt.
I say this, and I get pushback from people who like watch that touchdown run or whatever, and just like, oh yeah, it's not like whatever. You do like no like. If he's out there in a regular season game, he's protecting the franchise.
Exactly.
Or he's at least tasked with doing so. It's just not a knock on the kid, but it's like, no, you've got to be at a certain level.
There's this knock on. I think Rodgers has said it a couple times. Role players get like this weird tag where it's a negative, right?
Right.
As the 3rd running back, you are a role player, and your role is he had like 17 carries in the preseason in those 3 games.
Right.
The role of the 3rd running back, you don't get 17 carries for the whole damn season, right? Like if everything's going correctly, you're not touching the football. So if your only way of adding to the roster is to do it while carrying the football, you're going to have to find another role. And that's why I thought Taylor was going to find his way on, because you find 27 on special teams. Like you would see him in the mix of almost every single kickoff, punt return, punt coverage. You were finding that jersey out there. So I was a little surprised Taylor didn't make it, but they firmly, I think believe Kylan Hill's their returner once he comes back too.
100%. Totally agree. I do think some of it is a numbers game that Brian's talked about before as far as it being a puzzle, right? With the other positions. And I think something like keeping Toure at wide receiver, where we'll get to in a little bit, like it's probably because they don't keep a third running back. And
totally.
like to your point on Taylor, yeah, special teams definitely noticeable on tape. And I would go back to the playoff game. Remember, A.J. Dillon goes down, and people think, oh, the offense went to sleep after that or whatever. They have probably their best drive of the game after the Mercedes Lewis fumble, which we won't talk about. But like they were like just lost on offense through the rest of that game until there's a drive at the end of the third quarter that unfortunately ends in a field goal attempt.
Yep.
But Taylor comes in at some point, like for 3 or 4 snaps, because Aaron Jones has been toting the rock the entire time.
Yep.
And not only carries the ball and produces, but is in there when Aaron Rodgers like changes plays and has to get into pass pro and has to do other things.
Yeah.
To me, like you talk about a guy who has some pelts on the wall in a big fucking spot and rose to the occasion and has shown it's not too big for him. It's Taylor. And I think, you know, they will undoubtedly, my suspicion is week 1, they'll bring him up from the practice squad for that very reason, because he's been there, because he's done it, and because he's shown he can handle it.
Yeah, I think the activations are going to be interesting to see. The game day activations are going to be interesting because he's going to max out whatever that is, the 3
right.
games.
3 weeks. You can do it 3 times.
Go up. They're going to max
the fourth.
that one out.
If you do it a 4th time, you got to be signed to the 53. So, and by the way, look, you do it 3 times, maybe you bring up Goodson the 4th time, and then Kylan Hill's back.
And then you're there.
Most likely, Kylan Hill's on your roster. Most likely.
I don't, especially after last year, the speculation on injuries is pretty out of my vocabulary and out of my game plan.
Right?
Dude looks really good when he's running around out there, so I can't imagine he's all that far away.
No, I agree. And that's the thing. Like, you go back and watch him last summer, and then you watch him in the preseason. And then, of course, he doesn't get a ton of run those first 7 games prior to getting hurt because he's the third running back. Of course he's not going to. Yep. But, man, he looked legit in preseason last year in a way that both Goodson and Taylor probably don't. And that's not a knock on them. But, man, I'm excited for what he could potentially add. And Matt's talked about it as far as, yeah, we were even thinking about maybe drawing some stuff up for him later in the year. He's so talented.
And he's so different than Jones or Dillon. Right? Like, correct. I mean, he's much more similar to Aaron than he is AJ, but that's only because of the size, right? Like a little bit of the wiggle, but I mean, he is such a different player than both of those two guys, and what they're going to have of those two in and on the field at the same time.
We talked about it last week. Well,
we did.
We're going to save that. We're going to save that. We're going to put a pin in it for next week when we preview the matchup with the Vikings.
Amen.
Holy Toledo. I am excited. All right, let's get to it. The hotness, the wide receiver position, the topic du jour all offseason long. I mean, shout out to Samori Toure. I'm making the squad. I know he was a 7th-round pick, and it's pretty clear that Brian pretty much leaned into his selections. I don't know if he's trying to pad his stats, so to speak, of, look at all my draft picks that made our 53-man roster initially, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. Toure clearly put the stuff on tape to justify this idea, right? To justify the fact that, yes, he's a rookie. There's zero doubt that I'm going to sit here right now and tell you I'd be surprised if he's active for most game days, at least initially.
Oh, yeah.
The first month or so. But, man, this kid had a baller preseason and a pretty lights-out camp. And I'm really happy to see him stuck around. I know I put out there I thought Winfrey would make it. He's cut. Maybe he's back on the practice squad. He had another really good camp.
He did.
But overall, I don't think that's the one bit of a surprise. But I'm excited for Toure, and I'm excited for this wide receiver group.
The toughest part of it is, and this comes back to, no disrespect at all. But Juwan Winfrey's Juwan Winfrey, right? You're going to reach,
exactly.
Right? You're going to reach a plateau as hard and as much as that dude has worked to transform his body and get him to this point. I think they are looking at he's going to max at their 5th guy.
Who he is.
Yeah, he is who he is. And Toure at least adds a bit of unknown. And I think Nag's part of what had to have won him the job was the way he came out second day of the joint practices after Rodgers put the wide receivers in the fryer a little bit because
on blast,
because wasn't it Samari Toure that maybe had forgot to check over here with the ref to make sure that he was on the line or off the line, and we can't have these alignment penalties. That was one of the main reasons why I didn't think he was going to make the team, was because whatever the quarterback says of how much he likes the other guy, if he doesn't think you're going to be in the right spot, we're going to have some problems, right? Like, that's where I think ultimately
every time you step on the field, you're going to be doubting it. Like, so you're not going to be there.
So there's part of that to Ray making the team where I think it shows if you respond well to criticism, especially from that guy, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And that's a good lesson to show across the rest of the football team.
100%. Yes, I do think there's some of that. What I will also say, if you go back and watch the third preseason game, and I'm a nerd, so I do these kind of things.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you are as well. Man, Winfrey's tough to watch on special teams. Like,
not good.
And I understand nobody across the board played well in that game on teams. I mean, I think Amari actually held up pretty damn well. But overall, God, it's hard to watch. And Winfrey, in particular, if you focus on him in special teams in that game, you're talking about a guy who, I mean, he has a couple lookout blocks, like legit, oh, look out, you're going to get a hit. I'm sorry, couldn't get my hands on him. I mean, I understand that Aaron Rodgers is stumping for you, and you probably think you got a roster spot, but man, if Matt's up there the day before talking about, effort on teams and what you got to do, and you got to make your bones on teams as one of the lower roster spot guys, and then you come out and have the kind of performance that Winfrey had in Kansas City on special teams, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Winfrey is not on the initial 53.
So he got some Nagler minuses on the old grade sheet.
It's not pretty, man. It's not pretty.
I'll say this, 44-88. Neither of them were all that good to watch on special teams. Like,
correct.
And for as much as Ty made, and we'll talk about the linebackers in a bit, he's made himself a roster spot with his special teams play. I think he played himself off of the roster this year on special teams. And part of that has to be the way that Juwan had played as well. Because I noticed 27, not because he's standing around after the play near the ball. He's getting to the football. And he's going. He's making a couple of key blocks. Winfrey, you saw the back of his jersey, I think, a little far too much.
Way too much. Way too much. Way too many Olay blocks, if you know what I mean. So, I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But I did think, okay, been in the system 3 years, especially early in the year, you want to lean on a guy who has been in your system, has 12's trust.
Oh, yeah.
But Brian Gutekunst, he don't care, man.
Well, it also had to have been a little bit of Kumaro hangover, right? I mean, did we really think they were going to do it again? And then they did.
And then they did it.
Moody's like, hey, hold my beer. Watch this.
I will say this. It's interesting to me how Brian really, I'm not going to say loved his draft picks, but kind of loved his draft picks in this cut down, in the sense of, like, how many guys did not play, at least as starters in the preseason. And I'm not talking about the guys who were on the sideline in street clothes, although there were some of them, of course. But, man, the staff really seemed to want to see a lot of these, like, younger, undrafted, et ceteras, where Brian was like, nope, these are my draft picks, and they're making this team. There's I don't know, I want to say that, not friction, but seems to be a little like, nope, you're going to play my guys. You're going to deal with my guys.
There's a little bit of something to that, especially at the next position group. I mean, like, as you keep moving, there's something to the effect of, oh, this is a nice undrafted guy that walked on in here. And, man, this is my favorite thing that Brian does. I guess I got a lot of Ted Thompson in me.
I know.
A lot of Ted Thompson in you would have been to keep the undrafted guy over the draft pick. Come on, Brian.
Yep. Well, his thing, though, is like he likes to keep them all. Like, that was Ted's thing, right? Like,
totally was.
I want all my guys. I want to keep them all. That's why people keep talking about, like, who they might claim or whatever. And I'm like, Do you know who Brian is? Like, yeah, he might put a claim in on one dude somewhere, but like mostly he wants his guys, like Ted did.
Yeah, and Nags, as kind of everybody does, right? Like,
yeah, for the most part.
For the most part,
some guys a little bit more active than others.
Yep,
yeah,
there will be guys that go and poke around. Brian is on, like, those guys are more on the extreme of the dudes who are like, okay, I'm interested in who I can grab off this practice squad and go and put on my 53. Right. He's more on the other extreme of, listen, there's a reason why I brought these guys in. Because I know ball. I like these guys. I believe in what these guys are doing here. I know. Listen, highly successful football coach here. Right?
Okay, easy now. Hey.
He's a football guy, as Mark Murphy said.
Don't be besmirching Gutekunst's good name with Mike McCarthy's quote. I will not stand for it, sir. Although that is fucking hilarious. That's really good.
It was right there, man. The right lane was open.
It was teed up. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's talk about tight end, shall we?
Mm-hmm,
I love
it. Do it.
Are you surprised? Are you shocked that Tyler Davis made the cut?
Not shocked, because I listened to the borderline slob fest of what 84 could possibly be in 2022, right? Like, I mean, there was some, Nags, you were in that room. I mean, there was some love going towards Tyler Davis. The speed,
it's true.
Quickness. Oh, he's a former quarterback. Have you heard? Quarterbacks generally make smarter tight ends.
They're so smart.
We actually did the same thing with Robert Tonyan. So, I mean, maybe it's the same deal. Maybe it's not. I was surprised that Davis made it for one reason, and that was the seemingly just disconnect with finding a gap and sitting in it. Right? Like, that was the one thing that I thought a former quarterback would be really, really good at doing. And there were a couple of times, especially in those joint practices with the Saints, where Rodgers is looking at him saying, dude, you were sitting there for a second and a half. I was coming back to you, throwing you the ball. Why are you moving? Right? Like, so that, like, acute awareness to get the ball in game on offense, I just don't see it a ton of. But, man, when you're running that fast down on special teams, there's a reason why guys like you. And
there it is.
But
that's it, right? You're
the
fourth tight end. You got a ball out on teams. Although I will say, Sal Cannella, I mean, my guy got done dirty just like Josh Burrow did back in the day.
Yeah,
I mean, all he did was catch everything and ball out. Pour one out.
Hey, man, he's gonna have a huge New Orleans Breaker season this year, though. Just keep that locked in.
I like it. Let's talk about your ballywick. Let's talk about the offensive line.
Let's do it.
It's Rasheed Walker, baby. Rasheed Walker coming up and grabbing it in that last preseason game. I know maybe not a shock, maybe not a super surprise, but I got to admit, I spent the entirety of my time in Green Bay, and then even when I got back here to New York and talking about, like, practice squad versus 53, blah, 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 I thought Caleb Jones had practice squad written all over him until that final preseason game where I was like, okay, Walker's having a nice game, but Caleb Jones looks absolutely legit. You talk about a big, monstrous man who can move. The feet are really impressive. I don't know. I was a bit surprised they didn't find a spot for Jones and they kept Walker.
This has got to be keepability or signability, whatever you want to say, to the practice squad. Man, Rasheed Walker balled out in the last game, but he only played the last game.
That was it.
And Nags, I saw him in street clothes way more than I did in pads during practices and stuff like that. Now, when in pads, dude, Rasheed Walker can play. I mean, he has exceptional hands. He's got really good finish. I don't know if the video of him humping the player's head when he pancakes him at Penn State potentially pushed him from the 4th to 7th round, right? Probably. I don't know. I don't have that information.
In today's oversensitive media environment, yeah, probably.
It had to have something to do with it. You know where that did on my draft board? Shot right up. I mean, instantly, Nags. That's some of the best trolling that you could possibly do as a big dude. He can move and is in the he's in the exact athletic tackle build. 6'6", 310, moves well, got good finish. Like, I get why they kept Rasheed Walker. The Caleb Jones one is tough because, as anybody does, man, I love a giant, and he is a giant who can move.
Though it's like it's not just the giant; it's the fact that he can move. There was a toss play in that Kansas City game where he gets out to the left and just obliterates a linebacker, like envelops him. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy can move.
Yeah,
like
no
move, not just like run blindly and maybe put his hand on somebody. Like legit get out there athletically, square up with a linebacker and completely take him out of the play.
I think he's got, and maybe it was also where they were positioning him. Like I saw a lot of people say, I think they're going to give him a shot at right tackle. They're not giving Rasheed Walker a chance to beat Elton Jenkins out at right tackle, right? All right, let's just silence that right now. What he could be is a very nice insurance policy if the other left tackle in the 60 jersey never gets back.
If everything falls apart.
If everything falls apart, could be a nice long-term insurance policy. Jones, I think the best thing for his career, though, Nags, flip it over to right tackle. Because you can be a little bit more run and gun on the outside. You don't have to worry. People aren't going to be as nervous about your blind side look. But, man, Bryant McKinney, we watched do it for a long time up in Minnesota, and that dude was a giant. Caleb Jones is right in that same ilk. He will play in the NFL. He will play in the NFL.
I agree. And what's so funny is that, like, when we saw him early in camp prior to the pads going on, I thought no chance. No chance this guy is an NFL player. I just thought, like, looking at him on the sideline even, let alone, like, in shorts in a three-point stance, I just thought no chance. But I'm telling you, once those pads came on, he started moving, I was sold. I just got sold. Like, the kid can play.
Yeah, and he also apparently really dedicated himself to it. And as Nags, this sounds dumb, but sometimes that happens, right? Like, people are like, well, you're in the NFL. You have to love football. Guess what? Newsflash, people. Some of them don't. Right? Yeah. Like, and when it gets to this point, and then you realize, I can't just be the biggest human being in shoulder pads and just push everybody around. You do have to find other ways to do so. So his best ball is ahead of him. And if he does take it the right way and takes the practice squad rep, he will play in an NFL game within the next couple of years for sure.
Totally agree. And here's the thing. If there's a team that has shown they have patience, it's the Green Bay Packers.
No doubt.
At Yosh Nijman. The fact that Yosh was sitting on this squad for 3 years before he got a start. I mean, there's a team that's shown, we'll be patient. We'll wait for you. If you've shown that you're working at it and you're continuing to improve, hell yeah.
And they see more than I did, because when I watched Yosh Nijman, when I first saw him in shoulder pads, I was like, who's this cat? USF, not even the good one, not even the other something Florida. I mean, they didn't even go to Central Florida. Come on, what are we doing over here?
I mean, kids stuck around and kept working, and
he just kept working and got so much better at it. Offensive line's one position, Nags, where you can get better with age. A lot of them, it's just, what do you have? When you understand how to play the position, and that's where I think Jones is going to get to. Rasheed Walker knows how to play the position. Now he just has to figure out how much he wants to.
Right.
And that's a big difference. There's guys that want to. There's guys that necessarily don't have it in it. The Zach Tom effect also, I think, had to have played into some of the tackle.
Zach Tom Bombadil, the man who can play anywhere.
Elton Jenkins 2.0, right?
I mean, okay, we're not going to go there just yet. We're not going to go there just yet.
I found the plane. Now we're going to stop right there at the end of the pier.
But damn, if he doesn't make you think that, right? Like, I love it. I love it. All right, let's flip over defensive side. Pour one out for trash can full of dirt, Jack Heflin. And Chris Slayton. I will say, the Chris Slayton thing didn't surprise me at all.
Not at all. He balled.
I mean, he balled against second, third, and sometimes fourth teamers. He absolutely should be back on the practice squad, I would think. We'll see. Jack Heflin, I'm interested. I'm not going to sit here and say, he's gone. But I think there could be a team out there who likes what they saw. But both of them, not surprised, hope they're both back.
Yeah, and Heflin, man, I was surprised that he got cut just because every beat writer imaginable, right, seemed like they had locked him into the 53.
Right.
And I was looking around saying, wait, what did I miss? Like, not that he's not good.
No, I
I
hear
think
you.
Jack can play, but that's also the position that I think they're best at. Like, that is.
I mean, it's one of their deepest. That's what's crazy.
Their deepest
That's what's
position.
crazy.
Yep.
The Green Bay Packers have defensive line depth.
Yep, no doubt.
What world am I living in? What? I don't understand it.
It makes no
this
sense.
has not happened in the modern era of the Packers.
And I had thrown it out a couple of times, like just as people ask, who's your surprise cut? And if you just say Amari Rodgers, everyone's like, wow, Juwan Winfrey's my surprise cut. Okay, well, give us something different.
Right.
I threw Dean Lowry in there only as like cost,
I get that.
And they're actually really deep at the position. But Dean played his best ball last year, so you're not cutting him after that season.
Here's the thing: it wouldn't have shocked me, like not in the way that
funny.
Josh Sitton did a couple years ago, right? But like you say, he played his best ball last year. You're finally giving him a rotation where he doesn't have to play probably as many snaps as he has
no doubt.
the last few years. I'm in with him, Kenny Clark, etc. I'm all in. Let's look at outside linebacker. Kobe Jones and Ladarius Hamilton are the cuts there. Jonathan Garvin making it over Hamilton and Jones. You think that's the right call? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence here. And not even to mention Tipa, who I think people are really, like the nerds, the tape nerds, so to speak, are kind of split on. I like Tipa. I think he really answered the bell last year when they needed him to. But, man, I tell you what, Kobe Jones, I thought he had a shot.
I did too.
I'm not surprised, not shocked, but I really hope he's back on the practice squad.
Yeah, I won't use either the S word, surprised or shocked with Jones. But what I will say, like you mentioned, is he's got something to being on special teams, right? Like that, the way that guy thumps, I think definitely could help you on special teams. The Tipa one is interesting because I do think there's got to be something else there, right? Like, I mean, he can run. Don't get it wrong. He's got a nice speed rush to him,
right?
But I'd like to see there be an add to a real counter move for him. But Garvin played the most, Ingabari played the best, and Tipa was kind of, I guess, right there in the middle. That those guys were going to lock into those extra backup spots.
Here's the thing with Tipa. I do think last year he shocked a lot of people, including myself, with how he held up against the run in a way that I was not expecting. We know Mike Smith talked about always got to put on like 10 pounds, whatever. And I was with Mike on that one. Like, I thought he was going to get absolutely decimated in the run game, and he didn't. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, he played lights out against the run or held a great edge throughout preseason, but I don't think he looked overwhelmed at any point.
Right.
I will say I didn't think he looked anywhere near as kind of explosive or athletic as I remember him being. Like, when I watched his tape as an undrafted rookie, I thought, oh, who's this kid? You know, my friend Justice, like, sent me a clip of some of his stuff coming out of college, and I was like, oh, wow, this is a really exciting edge rusher. Like, I get it, man. I get why they're in on this guy. But, man, you just didn't see a lot of that in the preseason. Maybe it's down to opportunity, what have you. But, yeah, I really thought – I don't know. I thought it might go another way, but I can't say I'm shocked by how it played out.
Not super surprised, and you and I are both on the same wavelength. Jones would have been the one that I keep over Ladarius Hamilton. Nothing against what 54 does, but I think you can replace that. You can find another guy to do what he could do for you.
Well, and the fact that they got him from the Bucks, right?
Yeah.
Like last year, like
right.
Whatever. And then he was inactive most of the year, and then you bring him back and you see what he can do, etc. And now he's on your 53, and it's like, I don't know, I didn't see anything to like wow me, but again, I'm not going over with a fine-tooth comb. But yeah, I would have been with you. I would have thought Jones would have been
for sure
there, but we'll see.
I'm just excited to see how much these guys play, because there's going to be that spot rotates. It has to,
Yeah.
even when you have arguably your best defensive player in that spot. He plays best 75% of the snaps. I mean, that's a ton to be playing at that position. Who knows?
At this point, yeah. I think the idea that they were able to survive last year, and I underline survive, when Rashawn and Preston were off the field, you would have liked to see a little bit more activity as far as bringing in new talent, etc. But it sure feels like they're going to keep trying to survive when those guys. This was
the spot that I thought maybe they could have went and made a different move, but there really wasn't one to be had. It didn't look,
or like. Maybe and who knows? Claim wise, waivers wise, who knows what might happen? We'll see. We'll see what they add there. Let's look at inside linebacker. We got Campbell, Walker, Barnes, McDuffie, Wilborn, and Summers are out. Can't say any of that's a surprise. I will say one of the most improved, if not the most improved guy I saw all summer was Isaiah McDuffie.
Cosign. Yep, I co-sign that for sure. He was faster. Yeah. He was more physical than he looked last year. He just allowed himself to play free. Like his 3 series against the Saints, Ian Book is not wowing it. Listen, he's no Danny Etling, right? I mean, he doesn't have that kind of speed. So when he gets out of the pocket and McDuffie just calmly looks at him and says, "So where are you going to go, bud? You're going to go right here into the chest plate." No, kicks him down into the turf and makes a play. Like, that's what you got to do. And he's going to play on every single special team. He's going to be a factor on every single one of them. He's got to be one of your best special teams players. And for a dude that had an ACL in 2020, if I'm not mistaken, right? And then was kind of bouncing. Is he going to be active? Is he going to be inactive? Is he going to be active? Is he going to be inactive? And now it's year 3 of you're most likely going to be active for every single game. Go and see what you have for 6 to 8 weeks and make sure that this matches what we've seen in the summer. But I co-sign you, man. I thought he was by far the most impressive guy and the one that I looked at going into camp and said, you can improve from 58. And
I would have thought so. I 100% would have thought so. But I'm telling you, most improved to my eyes. I will say, how crazy is it that I get Ty Summers is Ty Summers from scrimmage. He has undoubtedly been a plus on special teams. I'm not going to say he's been a demon or anything, but a plus. Yeah. And they felt comfortable enough moving on from him, which speaks to the depth they've suddenly created at this position, which has been a thorn in their side for like a decade plus. It's pretty insane.
Dude, it's one spot that has always been so undervalued by the Packers, and then you just go like, they got really good edge rushers. They got a nice safety, so they'll be okay.
Right.
No, you still need somebody 5 yards away from the line of scrimmage that can cover and thump.
Well, that's the thing. And what Madden always said, right? Madden always talked about you're only as good as you are up the middle. Yep. The strength of your defense needs to be the middle of the defense, whether that's defensive tackle, whether that's inside backer, or whether that's safety. Like at least one of those safeties. And forever the Packers seem to like just kind of toss that idea aside. I'm so excited to watch this inside backer group this season. Let's look at corner. We got, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Jair. We got Stokes, Douglas, Nixon, and John Charles. I can't say I'm shocked by Gafford, Ento, or Thomas being released. I will say Keandre Thomas better be on the practice squad because I thought he had a really nice preseason.
Yeah, he should be. And I made a joke on the air when the news when the cuts were all coming down.
No.
And I said, well, luckily they have jersey insurance at Packers Pro Shop because for all the people that did buy the Keandre Thomas jerseys, you're going to want to go and trade that thing in. But you should be able to at least hold off for a little while because I do agree with you. He's got to be on the practice squad somewhere. You got to find a place 100%. For him.
You have to. I thought he had a really nice camp, really nice preseason. I'll tell you what, it is funny to watch like the doomsayers or whatever, the sky is falling, the chicken littles, if you will, talk about, they have no depth at corner. But I'm telling you, Keyshawn Nixon coming off the bench with those 3 guys ahead of him, I'm rolling with that. I think you can win a whole lot of ball games with him.
People don't know how Keyshawn Nixon can affect the team because he just didn't Well, Nags, let's be honest, he didn't have
he started injured, and I get it. Like he wasn't out there
he
a lot.
didn't
His
have
name
to do
wasn't
anything there.
talked about a lot. Yeah,
he's going to be locked in because he's a Rich Bisaccia guy, but he can fly too. He's cut up and he can fly. So there's a reason why he's on the squad and why I think he's going to be an impressionable figure for them.
Totally agree. And then finally at safety, Abernathy makes it. I mean, this kid, come on. They've kept
baby.
Amos, Savage, Levitt, and Carpenter. Carpenter, I think, makes it because he's a draft pick. And then they got Abernathy. This kid, USFL, signed like a week, August 10 days 10th. Into August, and then balls out and makes the team. What a story. I love this kid.
Dude, I thought he was going to have to go and sue the side judge in Kansas City for lost wages on that pass interference that should have been called.
He was mugged. He was mugged on that play.
That's ruthless. I mean, that's a felony in 15 states. What that guy did to him, grabbing him in the chest like that. So,
100%.
There's a lot of ball game left. I've heard that from a
lot of ball game left. Yes, sir.
And there's a lot of ball left for Mike Abernathy, even after he's just played himself a full season. Said, hey, I'm going to take 2 weeks off.
Okay, all right.
And I'm going to come right back to you.
You say a full season. That's like, what, 6 games? 5 games? Come on. Come on. I understand. I get what you're talking about with the USFL. However, he's not going to play right away. Like you say, he's going to be a reserve. He's probably going to be in street clothes. So, like, whatever happens roster-wise, bringing guys up, maneuvering, whatever, I'm telling you, this kid, as far as see ball, get ball, see play, destroy play. I love his awareness. I love his recognition. Every time I watch him, he's just like diagnosing instantly. And it's not like in preseason, you're not doing tape study as far as like, oh, these are their tendencies. You have no tendencies to go off of. But if you know ball and you see formations and you see motion and you see, oh, this is probably this or that's probably that. He was on top of everything everybody tried to throw at him. And that's the instinctual stuff. That's what we saw from Micah Hyde back in the day a couple years ago. Like that's the stuff where it's like, yeah, you can't teach that. You see a guy who knows it, and he seemingly knows it, and I love that.
The pick is the one that people remember. The TFL, the one that he blows up, like you mentioned, where he just instinctually knows they're running
the wide receiver screen.
They're running the tunnel screen. I got to go over there and I got to blow it up. I mean, that's
1,000%.
That's also just playing confidently.
Yes.
And there's something to be said for dudes that will walk out wherever they're playing, a system that they've known for 9 days, and say, dude, I got to make a play and I got to try. Like, at least I can lay my head on the pillow knowing that I gave everything I had to try and make the club. And that's going to be the biggest one. We got to get him out of that 46.
I agree. Totally agree.
That's one thing. We got to get him out of the 46.
Yeah. What's funny, though, is like a smart and astute offensive play caller or play designer will take advantage of that and say, oh, I'm going to pump fake that tunnel screen, and I'm going to send a guy up the sideline, and he's got to be aware of that. People will be targeting that if they've done their homework, but I doubt most have. But somebody will.
Somebody will try it. Somebody will try it, and you know what? As long as Dallin Levitt hasn't blew out his shoulder, knocking somebody else out unconscious,
ooh, baby, we'll see.
Levitt's the one, to me, honest, Nags. Like, if Sean Davis doesn't get hurt, that was the hired gun that I would have thought would have ended up being on the outside.
Gone. I totally agree. And the fact that Levitt himself was hurt and then appeared back at practice this weekend, and it was like, oh, okay, I guess he's back.
So don't worry, my rotator cuff is completely gone, but my legs still work, guys. I can still play ball for you.
The thing is if Davis doesn't injure his knee, I think he's on the squad, and I hate that. You hate that for a guy.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
Yeah,
I'm with you. Well during camp, didn't he?
I agree. Yes.
You saw 30 a lot.
As far as like see ball, get ball, being able to break on stuff, like not doubting himself, being instinctual, 100%. Could not agree more. But the knee, who knows? We'll see what happens down the line. But hey, if it opens the door for Abernathy, I'm not too upset about it.
Yeah, and I know teams used to do this a lot more back in the day where they would just say, you're just going to go on IR and we'll figure it out later. Like, you're not going to be able to do that if the guy's only going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks, right? Like, they're going to try to go make a living somewhere else. But
yes,
man, I'm with you, dude. I thought Davis had something. I thought he was their third guy. Like, I didn't think that there was.
He was definitely making a case for it.
Up.
No doubt about it. And then finally we get to the specialists. Mason Crosby rides again. The longest tenured non-quarterback in Packers history is ready to kick the ball in week 1 in Minnesota. I will say, though, shout out to Ahmed, the kicker who was cut. But I'm telling you what, they have brought in a litany of dudes over the years to maybe not push Crosby, but to be there and provide a camp leg, whatever. Ramiz Ahmed is the first dude they have brought in years where I've been like, oh, yeah, I'd be comfortable with him. Like, I'd be fine if they walked out there week 1 and asked him to kick the field goals, the extra points, etc. He was lights out in camp. He was lights out in preseason. I really hope he makes the practice squad.
Yeah, and you hope that they can at least keep him somewhere around, because whether or not, man, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, at some point, 2 is going to end up saying, I got like 18 kids I'm going to go live with.
I am out.
And I'm going to go hang out with my family. But until then, I'll keep he is the all-time leading scorer, right?
He is indeed.
Right? I mean, he's going to keep pushing that record as
franchise legend. He's not going to let anyone come up and snip that away from him. 100%.
And he's got to go see those 74 Mason Crosby jerseys that will somehow find their way on into Lambeau Field. Is that not the best when you walk by somebody with a deuce and you're like, you didn't lose a bet. You bought that because you love him.
You bought that on purpose. Hey, shout out to friend of Cheesehead TV, Matt Mamba.
Let's go, Matt.
Matt is a monster Mason Crosby fan who gifted us with the Mason Crosby song last year. If you don't know what that is, I highly recommend you Google it, because the Mason Crosby song is one of the greatest things ever invented. Bill Schmidt, that was it. That was what we did. We talked about the 53-man roster. We're almost an hour into this. What are we doing with our life?
We've joked about it. We're like, we should probably maybe go longer next time. I don't think we actually intended on going an hour, we didn't. Rambles on and just keep going.
Here we are. I will say, we got an incredible response from the first episode.
Yeah, we did.
Really appreciate everyone checking it out. I'm just glad that Bill was able to imbibe in some beer this time.
And not be
because if it's called beer and ball, you got to be drinking some beer. I mean,
I can't
just be hanging out.
No, this isn't one of those parts. I got this from a PR guy one time. He goes, we don't invite people in here just to like sit around and hang out, right?
Exactly.
If you're going to be in here, you got to be doing something.
You got to contribute.
Got to help out. Got to contribute to the cause. Hopefully, I don't get as much slander for the Bush Latte. Helps with my.
Whoa. Okay, here's the thing. Of course, they're not they're not paying us to say this, but I will say, dude, it's beer. Is it beer?
You.
It's beer.
It is. Yep. No doubt.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I talk about this with Corey all the time. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you come to a man's house, a man's home, and he offers you a Busch Light, you take it.
You say thank you very much.
It's Appreciate a beer. Yep. It's a beer. I don't care. Like, hey, where I might draw the line is if it's like a Christmas ale or a pumpkin.
A little pumpkin spiced ale or something.
I'm not I'm just like, I just want a beer, Yeah. But if it's a straightforward beer, that's a thank you. And let's talk ball. And that's it. There's nothing else to talk about it.
Dude, I appreciate you welcoming me into the Cheesehead TV community, because I felt like, dude, after the first episode, I got Twitter followers went sky high.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about.
Thank you to everybody from Cheesehead TV joining the fray and hanging out with us and saying, hey, this Bill guy, I kind of liked what he was saying. That sounded good. I appreciate you welcoming me on here, dude. This is awesome.
Oh, stop. It's a joint effort. It's a partnership. Mm-hmm. That's what we do. Cheesehead TV, 97.3 The Game. Bill, can't thank you enough for hanging out and talking ball. We'll drink more beer and we'll talk more ball next week as we preview the showdown with the Minnesota Vikings. You got anything else for the people before we head out?
No, just make sure you're carrying that G365.
That is it. That is all you need to do, people. For Bill, I'm Aaron. Go Pack, go.